combat sports, world of MMA. Bellator returns to action with Bellator 225 this weekend. Main event features a heavyweight clash. Probably going to get these names wrong. Rick may correct me or may not. Between Matt Mitrione and Sergey Kharitonov. Did I get that even close?
Yeah, first of all, Mitrione you're pretty much right there. And Kharitonov, like, you probably say it better than I say it.
Kharitonov. Kharitonov and Mitrione. I went with
the last one to ask about names. I slaughter them all the time.
So Mitrione, it's a silent E, is favored at minus 140 in the money line with Kharitonov, a slight underdog, plus 110. It's the second fight between these two combatants after the first ended in a no contest at Bellator 215. In that fight, Mitrione threw a kick to open the bout and caught Kharitonov. It was ugly, just flush in the groin.
It was terrible.
It ended the fight literally 15 seconds into the first round. I don't think there was a strike that was thrown on either side. So finally, reset. Technically, this is Mitrione Kharitonov 2. Rick, which side do you like here, assuming that they actually get an actual fight in?
I truly wish one of these betting sites would have listed a prop bet for will someone get kicked in the balls again. Like, I would be all over that. I would love it. I would die laughing. I'd write an article about it. I would talk the whole podcast about it if I could. Unfortunately, I haven't seen it anywhere as of yet. It was like Mitrione decided the fight started. It was like he just walked right up to him, kicked him in the balls, and that was it. It was one of the most brutal things I have seen in 15 seconds of a fight ever. We've seen fast knockouts. This was worse. This was the worst thing I've seen inside a cage in the first 15 seconds of a fight. With that said, I had picked Mitrione to win that fight. He's going up against a guy who's a great striker, and if he can keep the fight at a distance, then he has a chance at winning. He has a kickboxing background, solid striking skills. The problem, though, is he's not as great on the mat. Mitrione, if he can make this an ugly fight, if he can close the distance, if he can be in a clinch, if he can do the dirty boxing up against the cage, or get him down to the mat, he has the advantage, and he could win that fight. I'm leaning towards Mitrione to do that just because he has enough power in his striking to knock out his opponents. He can take a shot, and he has a big advantage on the mat. And to me, you have to side with that in a fight where one of the guys is mostly known for his striking abilities and apparently can't take a shot to the balls.
To be fair, I don't know many that could take a shot to the balls and continue to battle, but these two have a combined 37 stoppages and their 41 combined wins, which is pretty impressive. It should be a good fight. The odds are pretty even, and in these kind of scenarios, I typically just like to take the value, and the value is on Kharitonov right now at plus 110. Maybe we should have done this last week when Miocic made us all look like idiots, but I'll just side with Kharitonov. I'll just grab the plus odds.
Well, Miocic didn't make us look like idiots per se, because we did say that he had a chance. I mean, he's the former heavyweight champ. The problem was we all thought DC would do the smart thing and take him to the mat and win it that way. DC didn't. He took him down one time. Steve Bay took DC down one time. It was a stupid fight plan by DC, and that's why he lost. If Mitrione repeats that against his opponent this week, he'll lose also because his advantage is on the mat. You got to take him to the mat and grind it out.
Another point on the DC fight last week was that I'm pretty sure, at least from watching it and from every round by round, analysis that I was able to see, DC was winning the fight when he suddenly lost the fight. So it was one of those situations, as we say with MMA all the time, where it's one punch, one slip up, and you end up either KO'd or submitting. And basically, if DC had just lost that round, because it was round 4, right, Rick? It was a round 4 loss. If he had lost that round and gone round 5 and just survived it, DC is still a heavyweight champ.
He won all 3 rounds. He dominated round 1. People didn't even think Miocic was going to make it out of round 1 once he got him to the mat. You get into round 2, you see more of DC pushing the pace. Both of them just landed monster shots. I don't know what DC was doing. He didn't stick to what was his bread and butter, which is his wrestling. He looked like he was cocky at times, which is not something that I'm accustomed to seeing in him. Having his hands down, trying to grab Stipe's hands when he's going in there was just ridiculous. Get him to the mat. Grind him out. Stipe went from being a great heavyweight now to arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time by winning that fight. Neither one of the heavyweights in this Bellator fight will be considered a great heavyweight before or one of the greatest ever, but it should be a good fight still.
Looking forward to that. And let's shift to WWE now because we are in the midst of the King of the Ring tournament. It has returned. We have one set of opening round matches already in the books. Samoa Joe, Cedric Alexander, Elias, and Andrade have all advanced to round 2 of the 16-man tournament. There are still 4 opening round matches still to occur, those expected to be next week on Raw and SmackDown, as Ricochet and Drew McIntyre will square off on Raw, as will The Miz and Baron Corbin. Then on the SmackDown side, Ali will battle Buddy Murphy, and Chad Gable faces Shelton Benjamin. That will close out round 1. Of the combatants involved, Drew McIntyre is the betting favorite at plus 250, followed by Baron Corbin at plus 300, and Andrade has plus 350 odds. Despite not being involved in the tournament, Sky Bet says Shane McMahon is a plus 250 betting favorite to win the King of the Ring. This is how he became the best in the world in the Saudi Arabia show that, let's not mention Saudi Arabia was where WWE held that event, but where he wasn't really in it and then suddenly just came in as he tagged in and substituted for a fighter to become the best in the world. So who knows? We've gone through the combatants that are involved. Rick, who would you take a bet on to take home the crown when this tournament wraps up? And is there a competitor that you see as being maybe the most intriguing as getting the king moniker?
I'll tell you. Okay, so I'm looking at 4 guys in particular. I would like to see Ricochet win, but I think after his run with the U.S. title, losing overall the title, and then his feud with AJ, I don't think Ricochet is going to win this tournament. Personally, for me, Drew McIntyre should win the tournament because he should be a world champion by now. He has everything you could want or need in a main event champion. Unfortunately, WWE would rather give this crown to Baron Corbin than someone like Drew McIntyre. And that scares me, by the way, because this has Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over it, and we know what he's done with Baron Corbin in the past. We know he could easily make Baron Corbin win this tournament, or the King of the Ring tournament now. With that said, I would love to see, the one who intrigues me the most would be Buddy Murphy. He had a great match with Roman Reigns. He just beat Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. He's been a tremendous in-ring talent. He held the Cruiserweight title for 6 months. He's got everything you could want right now in a exciting, up-and-coming in-ring talent. To me, he would be the most intriguing. However, I don't see that happening. I believe it's either going to come down to Samoa Joe or Andrade. I think Samoa Joe offers great value. Andrade has been given this push recently where we've seen him show off his talents. And each week, it just seems like he's one of the best wrestlers on television for WWE each and every week. He's ascending. All the online news sites are just talking about how WWE is high on him. Charlotte Flair's boyfriend and all. I believe Andrade's probably going to win it. I think the best value is with Samoa Joe right now. I would hate to see Baron Corbin win. I personally want to see Drew McIntyre win.
I was going to take Samoa Joe as a joke just because I like his name. I'm horribly underqualified to actually comment on this, so I'll just side with Rick and say Samoa Joe or Andrade, I think it was.
Yep.
And I'll throw it back to Drew for his expert analysis.
I do think it's interesting with this tournament because there is a lot of potential value with any of the fighters that are in this. Drew McIntyre coming in as he is, as being the betting favorite and plus 250 is really impressive because you're getting really good odds on everybody. Shane McMahon is a really interesting one to me. And the reason for it is this. Sky Bet says that all fighters that are listed will pay off either as wins or losses once they've competed in a match. Shane McMahon is currently not scheduled to compete in the King of the Ring tournament. So if you're betting on him because you're expecting him to just show up in the championship match, sub in for someone and win, then you're not really risking anything. if you think that's the way that they go, because he's only going to fight one match at that point. So the thing with doing that, though, is that I could see them doing something where they flip the script on it, because Shane did that last year, won the tournament, became co-best in the world, co-besties with The Miz, turned on The Miz, won the WrestleMania match. The Miz is currently something right around the plus 4,000 mark. If you're thinking Shane is coming in, it's probably going to be against The Miz. And that is where I would say is that they're probably, because they made Shane the best in the world, to make him the best in the king of the world. I don't know what they would do. But anyway, that doesn't seem as likely to me. I do think it's an interesting bet simply because if he doesn't ever wrestle, you just get your money back. But what intrigues me, I like the McIntyre play at plus 250. They've got to do something with him. They've got to give him something. And, he's Scottish. That is usually enough for Vince McMahon to put the King of the Ring moniker onto somebody. They've done it with Sheamus, who is Irish. They did it with Wade Barrett, who is British. They could do it with Drew McIntyre, cover the entire British Isle with King of the Rings. The one that's really interesting to me as far as the far down ones, I like Samoa Joe, think that's a good pick. Ali is an interesting pick for me because if you remember going back 6-7 months, Ali was in that position where we thought that he was going to be in the spot that Kofi Kingston ended up in, where Ali could currently at the moment be WWE champion if it weren't for an injury and a couple of things here and there. This would be an interesting way to go about getting him back to that point. And he comes with odds that are basically 20 or 30 to 1 right now. His order of matchups are he's got to go through Buddy Murphy in the first round. Elias is waiting for the winner of that fight in the second round. Elias is usually a gatekeeper for something a little further on, so that's one to win. Then it's a semifinal and the finals. I think that he's got a road to the King of the Ring that I could see as far as one of the down, the distant long odds guys goes. Those are kind of the three that catch my eye. Ali is my long shot pick. McIntyre is the one that I think is the safe pick. And Shane McMahon is the pick for, if you think that if he's going to show up, that he's going to win, like he did in the Best in the World tournament in Saudi Arabia, then you got nothing to lose. If he shows up and loses to The Miz or someone in the finals, then you do have something to lose. But that, for me, is where I'd be looking at. Shane McMahon's an interesting pick just because he's there, despite not being in the bracket. Ali is a guy that at a long shot odds I kind of like, for the same reason that, Rick, that you like Buddy Murphy. And, Joe and McIntyre both make for good, safer picks. Usually going with a heel to win King of the Ring is probably a safer play, which is the other reason that Ali is not a positive thing for me, is because if they're going to take the King gimmick, it's a lot easier to do that if you're a bad guy, just historically speaking. And you can even go back to the former British winners, the British Isle winners. Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett, was technically a heel. They were trying to make him more of a heel. Sheamus was a heel when he won King of the Ring, however many years ago that was. I believe he was a heel. Was he not, Rick? Because he switched somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah, because he had the thorn crown. Anyway. Oh, yeah, that was going into the Daniel Bryan, or coming out of the Daniel Bryan WrestleMania, I believe. It was right around that time. Anyway, so that would be my pick. Taylor, now that you've heard mine, do you want to weigh in a little bit more? Because I know that you're a big wrestling fan.
I had a whole spiel written out, but my computer just suddenly crashed. I can't believe it. So I guess I don't have anything left.
Oh.
You can ad-lib. Do you want me I can hold up the odds for you in front of the camera, and you can read it if you want. And
just stay tuned for another show where I break down all the wrestling odds on Odds On Favorites YouTube channel.
I hope you enjoyed that segment from the Odds On Favorites podcast. If you did, there's plenty more where that came from. Click on the link on your screen now to be taken to the complete podcast from this week, or check out the channel to find the other individual segments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Odds On Favorites YouTube channel for plenty more sports and sports betting picks, tips, and how-to guides.